Hello! Okay, so this is part two. On the assignment, we were asked to answer three questions, and I went into one of them, and I would like to answer for the other two as well. So, the other two questions were provide some examples, essentially, for why we are the type of listener that we claim to be, and then also something interesting we learned about the art of listening. So, an example I have for why I tend to be a critical listener or a goal oriented listener, which I talked a little bit about, just that I think one reason is I deeply care for people, and so I have their best interests at heart. And I think, although that's opinionated because that's assuming that I know, and then also I desire to share information. I love sharing with people, and anytime I hear anything, right, that intrigues me, I want to share that with people. And I can find discrepancies when people are talking are something that I feel inclined to share. And while maybe from a part of me, I think, oh, they would want to know that. They would want to know that two things they're saying don't match up. Another part of me knows that, again, kind of as I talked about, maybe that's not always the best way to approach something, or at least how I would approach that with some kindness and empathy and sensitivity might be very wise. So, anyways, an example is talking with friends and family, especially. Yeah, talking with friends and family, I've had lots of examples. In high school, for example, and junior high, I was phenomenal and still could be, still can be, at looking for these discrepancies to the point where I was encouraged about my ability to debate. And I think I grew up in a family that valued this and values intellectual capacity as well as heart, some of my family. But I experienced a lot of drawbacks as I started looking at what I wanted from my life, and intellectual capability and being right about something or pointing something out, whether that's from my idea to help somebody or to help my own brain feel safe, doesn't seem as important to me as being happy and helping other people be happy. And so, even though I can spend a lot of time looking for discrepancies, if those aren't geared towards making life better for ourselves and other people and living more harmoniously, then I think I'm missing the point. So, an example might be when I had a friend recently speaking about safety and or speaking about, I guess, what she values in life. And I just remember one example being me sharing with her that I don't lock my door. I think this was after talking about being molested. I was molested. And a assignment I had in one of my classes, it might have been this one, to share about what are things that I do every day to avoid possible injury because I walk with a female body. And so I actually spent some of the post talking about the things that I could do, but I try not to do. I try not to lock my door and not to lock my car, actually, because I want to have faith in people. And so, even though some people might say, oh, it's unwise to do those things, somebody might rob you, somebody might hurt you, and I have experienced pain in some of those ways. Um, I don't want a ritual of mine to be that every night before I go to bed, I act upon fear of somebody else not acting in their best nature. I don't want every night before I go to bed and possibly don't wake up in the morning to go and lock my door to keep out someone or something or some evil. I would rather leave my door open on the off chance maybe somebody needs to come inside, right? Maybe I can offer some help to someone. Um, I mean, even just a space in trusting things just are as they are. Um, and speaking with her about this, I don't remember what it was that she said, but I found some kind of discrepancy in what she was saying, and my friend is absolutely delightful and was thrilled that I found this, but also it can be a space of tension of maybe somebody feeling like I'm setting out to have an argument when really I think sometimes I'm just incredibly eager to share my opinion and not even thinking about whether they will take that personally or think that I'm saying their opinion is wrong when I think we're both entitled to have our own thoughts. So that's a thought. And then something I learned from the book about whether or not, or not whether or not, but something I learned that was about the art of communication and a fascination, maybe with some detail I found in there, I think is really just about maybe something I thought about a lot was a part of the book talked about being able to switch as a good communicator, what they call a competent communicator, between different types of listening, depending on the situation. So, for example, I might use my critical thinking in certain scenarios, or use it all the time, but in certain ways in those scenarios. And then at other times, use relational listening or other kinds of listening to essentially kind of switch between different hats, if you will, to be the most appropriate for any situation. And I have mixed thoughts about that. I do think there are situations where certain tools will generally work better. But I also think being authentic to oneself is a fantastic listening tool. And so, if I know that what comes very naturally to me is to listen critically, perhaps instead of choosing what situations I use that in, I could choose how I implement that in different situations. In one, maybe I think critically, but I keep most of my critical thinking to myself. And maybe I hold even what I'm thinking critically for a later date if I and that person talk. Maybe I try purposefully not to think critically and I try just to listen to what they're saying from an emotional level because that's what they need. But I guess it takes some critical thinking on my part to figure out what they need in that situation. So I don't know. I found that very fascinating, and I liked the idea of being a very fluid listener, of thinking what's best for this situation, because it reminds us that it's listening isn't about just formulating a response, it's about listening. There's somebody else there talking, and we're in a communication with them, a conversation and a partnership going back and forth. Or sometimes we're just listening. So yeah, I think the book had a good point, and I think maybe it's just up to me to think about what do I think about that, how would I want to implement that, and how do I put my own authentic spin on that, on what that listening process looks like for me. So, I hope you're having a beautiful evening, and I am excited to hear what kind of listener you are. Be well.